Welcome to Chronic Curiosity, where we have real conversations with real people, from everything to anything, in attempts to facilitate dialogue with our fellow humans, and hopefully your curiosity as well as ours. If you can withstand the show, we ask, most importantly, that you tell your friends and family, but also you can pick up some merch or just donate to the show at chronic-curiosity.com in USD or Bitcoin. If you feel so obliged, you can give us a good rating and follow on whatever podcast platform you so choose. But please feel free to reach out to us on the website or the socials, which can also be found on the website, chronic-curiosity.com. And here we go. So I'll start by apologizing this week to all of our viewers out there. We had a technical difficulty, so you won't be able to see Tim Krupp's beautiful face and the joy and peace that just seeps out of him, unfortunately. So hope you still enjoy the show. Yeah, Tim, I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, but haven't seen you in a while. And you've been doing some big things, it seems like, recently. Mm-hmm. At least it seems like you got a lot going on, even more so. But if you could just, I guess, so what are all the businesses that you're running now? Because I feel like there's a couple of them that you're doing. So I guess we can start there.
Yeah. So I have 3 moving companies. I have one called Krupp Moving and Storage right here in Worcester. Mm-hmm. We also have Krupp Moving and Storage in Columbus, which we started about a year ago. Oh, okay. It's going really well. And I also own a company called Summit Moving and Storage in Akron, which is a company that I acquired. We own High Point Furniture here in town. And I started an accounting firm for moving companies. We specialize in moving companies. I've since sold my interest in that just recently. My newest thing right now is I'm working on a call. It's up and running, but it's just small at this point. But I'm working on a call center and virtual estimating center for the moving industry, right? So I created a central call center for my 3 companies. That answers all the phones. And we do like virtual video estimates, or we might do a phone estimate if it's a little bit smaller. And then to monetize that and offset the cost, I offered that to other moving companies like, hey, do you want us to sell for you? And moving companies, a lot of them don't have like a good sales process. They've got, like operational people, just answering the phones like movers, when you're moving.
Yeah, I got a guy in the truck here.
Yeah,
That's all you need.
We actually have like sales people, just really good customer service representative people who take people that take their clients like through a process with follow up and everything. Anyways, there's been a really big need for that in the industry. So right now, we only started selling for other companies a couple months ago, and right now we're selling for about 18 companies, including our companies. So this is what I'm like actively like working on developing, like with all of my energies are just really poured into that right now. Right. So I have a vision of about 250 to 300 people answering phones and doing virtual estimates in 5 years.
I didn't notice that. How much has that kicked up over the last couple of years? Because I didn't think about that until you just said it.
Yeah.
Like the last couple of years, it seems like there's been stories out there that people are moving a lot, whether they're trying to move out of the cities, they're trying to move to different places. How much has that kicked up for you? Like, I guess in the industry. So, I mean, it seems like there would be a gap there that needs to be filled.
It's been really good. Even like during COVID and stuff like that, people continue to move. Our company continued to do well. We continue to grow through that. Ohio is the 6th most outbound state, right? So we're kind of in a good spot for, like, we do a lot of interstate work, so moving people to other states. So it's just a lot of people when they get older or whatever, maybe they're snowbirds now, but then they decide like, hey, we want to go ahead and take the plunge and move south.
Especially this year, right?
Yeah,
we actually had a decent winter, or
a real winter.
Actual winter. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of my childhood this year. So it's never ending.
Do you think that's what mostly it is at least for the Ohio is? Because I saw that and that kind of surprised me. People moving out of, I don't know why it surprised me. Maybe because I kind of like it, I guess. But do you think that's the big portion of that is just people are like, I don't want to deal with winters anymore, and
Yeah, so it's
moving south?
Yep. So it's a few things. So number one is that. So people just kind of like aging out, retiring, moving south. But then you also have like a lot of corporate relocation, right? So
Okay.
people like graduating college or they get a different job and then they move. And then other than that, it's like, just various reasons that people might move.
What's up, Tony?
What's up, man?
Tony? He was running a little.
Hey,
little late.
sorry about that.
That's all right.
I apologize for being tardy.
Well, it's half a point of absence. That's so you have the moving companies, you have the furniture store here in locally. Are you looking to continue to grow those moving companies along with the service of the sales for moving companies?
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
the goal?
So yeah, we're going to continue growing our current moving companies. I don't know if I'll continue to open moving companies. If the Lord brings the right person into my life, right, that's kind of how I've operated. If that right person comes and we want to work together and do something and they want to do a moving company, then we might look to do something like that. But if that doesn't happen, if that person doesn't come to my life, then I probably won't.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to continue to just grow the companies that we have, and then I'm focusing my efforts really on this call center at this point. So I'm out of the day-to-day of the moving companies. So I worked with a coach I was a private client of his. His name's Louis Massaro. I worked with him as a private client for like a year and really focused on getting my systems and processes like really dialed in, getting people in places so I could step back from the day-to-day of the business and just work on my businesses, right? So, but I find like when I get into that position, like where it's like everything's handled and I don't really have to do anything, that's when I like decide to start something new. Like I just can't like I can't sit still. So, and I love to build stuff. I love to create jobs. It's just the way I'm wired. It's just fun to me. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you've been grinding at it for quite a while.
Yeah, I have.
So
Yeah,
how did that whole thing begin, I guess?
Yeah. All right. So I grew up. So my family was in furniture, like right. So like furniture retail, like 3 generations furniture retail.
Oh, really? I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I grew up like delivering furniture. Actually, I grew up in a restaurant. My parents owned a restaurant. My grandparents had furniture stores. But my parents, they went into business with my grandparents in furniture. So at the age of 13, I started delivering furniture, even helped like sell furniture once in a while. My parents opened up a store up in like the Sandusky area, and my wife and I, when we weren't even married yet, but we moved up to Norwalk. We managed that for a couple of years for them, and my parents decided to close down their Worcester store, which was called Crosskey Furniture at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
next to Dairy
familiar.
Queen here in Worcester,
Okay.
right? So they were going to close down that store. I asked my parents. I said, "Hey, can I give it a shot? Can I go down there and can I lease this property from you, and see if we can make it happen?" And they let me. I had $17,000 to buy like furniture for the floor. So that's like, like even back then that was not very much money, right?
Right. And that's not a small store either to put.
Yeah, it was a decent sized store. It's probably, 12,000 square feet or something like that, right? So we ordered Ashley furniture because it's like our money seemed like it was going to go the furthest getting like Ashley furniture. That's what we started with. So Autumn and I, it went off like a firecracker, really. So this is like 2005 or something, right? Within 2 years, we had that store doing about $1.4 million a year, which at the time was, was really good. We felt like we were pretty successful,
Well,
but we were
17,000.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So
pretty good.
yeah, we were excited about it. And then the economy started to get bad, right? So like 07, 08, 09.
Yeah.
We were young kids. Probably weren't that great with money and stuff like that. It's like we're making a lot of money, but I don't think we were saving a lot of money. So like, quickly our feet got taken out from underneath us. So we lost that store. We had to close up shop. And it was a rough time. Now, while I owned that store, I had a delivery truck, a couple delivery guys. People would like ask us to move stuff just because we had that, right?
I see where this is going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then back then the phone book still worked. It was like still a thing.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
you're like, what? Yeah, okay, if you're listening to this and you don't know what a phone book is, it's this giant thing that somebody delivers to you yearly, and it has everybody's phone number in it.
yeah,
That you could find phone numbers.
and it was like 2 inches thick back then.
Yeah, there was no internet. There wasn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was. I guess in 2005 there was internet, but it wasn't.
It wasn't what it is today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, anyways, I put a business size like ad in the phone book, and it just said, Krupp Moving Services is what it was called at the time. $80 per hour. That was like our whole thing. That phone book dropped, and the phones just started ringing. Right, so it's like, oh, there's a need out there for this service. The little 14-foot box truck that we had just wasn't going to cut it anymore, right? So it didn't matter if it was like, an apartment or like a 5,000 square foot house. If we had to do like 17 trips in this 14-foot box truck, that's what we were doing, right? Just charging hourly. So I went on eBay and I bought a bigger truck for like $3,600. Had no idea what I was buying. So I went and picked it up myself. It was stick shift too. So I'd never even like driven a truck like this. And so like I go all the way out there and then drive this thing home, figure out how to drive it home. And it was actually a pretty good truck for us. So believe it or not, we got lucky with. I haven't always had great luck with trucks, but we
that's
had
a pretty
good luck
decent
with that
price
truck.
for a big truck like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So anyways, close the furniture store. And all I really have left is I have 2 moving trucks and a couple movers. It's like a side gig type size company at this. It wasn't enough to like support our family.
A weekend hustle.
Yeah, exactly. But I had a vision, and it's like, man, I knew that this could be something. The phones ring like crazy. But we couldn't, afford like better trucks. It was hard getting employees. So I tried various different things. I tried real estate for a while. It wasn't that good at the time. It was hard to get the ball rolling on that. So then I went and sold cars. And I sold cars on and off for about 5 years, right? So I'd sell cars, and if it got really, really busy, sometimes I would leave in the summer and go run my company for a month or two, and then just go back to the dealership, at the end of the season. So I did that on and off for about 5 years. Autumn, my wife, she was at home answering the phones for the moving company, and we had like 2 babies, at the time. So there's like screaming kids in the background. She's answering the phones, like Krupp Moving Service, and like, shut up, like scheduling moves, booking moves, also scheduling like on-sites for me. So I would like go visit people on my days off from the car dealership. And we did that for a number of years. It really wasn't even until just like 2015. I remember I got to the point to where my head wasn't really in selling cars because there were so many things like going on like with moves throughout the day that I would get like phone calls, and I'm like literally trying to like close a deal, and like my phone's blowing up, and I know it's like, oh, something bad is going on in a move, and I'd be like, 1 second, and I would like leave the car deal and like duck out like real quick and like go like troubleshoot, like put out a fire real quick, and then come back out with a smile, and try to come back out with a smile on my face, and like, hey, how's $450 a month sound? Just sign right here, right? And so I remember this day so well, standing outside at the car dealership. It's like early July, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing a good job at running my moving company. I'm not doing a very good job at selling cars. What do I want to do, right? What do I want to do with my life? And it was at a crossroads. I knew I had to make a decision one way or the other. And I just went in and talked to my manager, and I said, man, I got to go run my company. I've got to do this. And that drive home is what I'll never forget. Like the freedom that I felt driving away from that job, and thinking to myself, like, Tim, you can't ever go back to that. You've got to go like hell. Like whatever it takes, you're going to do this and you're going to make it happen. And that next year, we doubled the company, right? So like the company, it needed me, right? And once I went there and I started running myself, it doubled, and then it doubled again. And it's just seen tremendous growth since 2015. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is
it's been
awesome.
cool. I think we have We have Krupp Worcester, we're running 2 tractor trailers and about 15 other trucks, just out of this location. All of our locations have about 30 pieces of equipment at this point. Last summer during peak season, we were at like 80 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
I didn't
like
realize it was that big.
Lord's really blessed it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good for you. What you were gonna?
How long have you been in Columbus?
Yeah, so we just started Columbus last April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're just at a year.
Did you pick something else? Did you pick something up there, or did you start fresh? Like,
Yeah, we started fresh.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had a guy who I started mentoring a little bit because his name's Mo Hostetler. He was going to school for IT and started a little moving company in Massillon to help put himself through school. And he's like doing this like on the weekends. And then he like started his own like website. He was managing his own pay-per-click. And I know his family. It's just really nice family. They're like, hey, would you meet with Mo and talk with him about the moving industry? And I'm thinking, I was like, well, he's like in kind of like a competitor, but yeah, I'll meet with him. He's like in our territory, but whatever. I have an abundance mindset, so I meet with him, and I just love this guy. Right off the rip. I just really liked him. We had a great meeting, a great lunch. I poured into him a little bit. And I don't know if it was that meeting or the next time that we got together that I said to him, Mo, we could, if you really want to go this direction, we could do this a whole lot faster together. And I've got some ideas. If you want to do a location or something with my company, you could come in and apprentice for a period of time with our company, and then we'll send you out. And so that's exactly what happened.
That's awesome.
And really cool story. Mo is actually adopted from Liberia, right?
Okay.
So when he was 12, he was adopted, came to America, raised in like this awesome Christian family. And this guy is sharp as a tack and just hungry, like sometimes you meet a person and they just and it's like, there's this person's, whatever they do, they're going to do well, right? This person is wired to succeed.
Right.
And I saw that in him. He's got tenacity. That intrinsic like motivation, like whatever Mo does, he's going to do well. Yeah. That's really neat. And he's crushed it down there. He's doing really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think, speaking of that, what do you think that is for you that is giving you that, because a lot of people don't think of a career choice as moving in furniture and, obviously your family was in that business, but what do you think it was for you that gave you that drive and that tenacity to just like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to, like, I'm not going to go get a 9-to-5 or I can't do this selling cars thing anymore. Like,
yeah.
What do you think is that kind of, were you just born that way? You just kind of, that's it. What it is. Or was there something that kind of,
yeah, I think you're a product of, kind of your environment. I did grow up in, a family of entrepreneurs, right? So my grandfather was an entrepreneur. My parents were entrepreneurs. But also, I think the failures, right, are really, like when I lost that furniture store, I grew up in family business, and even though that was my store that I lost, it was kind of like taking over a family, a business, almost being like second generation or something, right? And then I think, after I lost that, like I really wanted to succeed at something. I really wanted to be my own boss and to create my own life. I knew when I was working at the car dealership, like, this is not the life that I want, right? So I don't want to be married to a car dealership. I want to be married to my wife and to my kids. And,
right.
And, like all of those things. And I just had this fire inside of me that's like, I'm going to make something happen. I have to make this happen for myself and for my family. So yeah, I think the failures that I went through probably poured the gasoline on that in a big way. And I love it. It's fun. Like I say, I love building stuff. I love creating jobs. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it.
I think it's, Tony, you talked about creation and that creating something all the time. And some people, you don't think about it as, creating a business or, work, because that's a lot of work.
It is.
Sounds like Tony.
Yeah,
like
he's got like 10
you
different
really
things.
like, you have ideas and you're like, hey, I'm going to start this. And then, once it's established, I'm going to move over and I'm going to start this. Like, it just seems like something you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, no, I have a couple more irons in the fire right now. So formed 2 more LLCs with the attorney last week. So
It just seems like it fits you.
yeah, no, that creative part, man, that's what it is for me. And it's like it's the most fun, but it's also the hardest. Like at the start. And I don't know if that's I don't know if that's kind of how you felt, but it's like holy smokes, you have all these like logistical problems, and it's like these pieces of a puzzle in front of you, and you have to align them. But it's the most fun part too, because it's like maximum creativity, and you're like, how do I think way outside this box to basically make this puzzle? So
the problem solving is the funnest part of it. Like, how do I mean, because a business is really just it's a need that needs met, and it's a problem that needs solved. Like, how do I meet this need in the best way for people?
And that's fascinating because I don't necessarily make the connection with the business, because I like making things.
Yeah.
Like that's always because then when you get done with it, you can look at it and go, hey, yeah, I did that. Like I made that. Like that's neat to be able to step away and go, I actually did something. Because a lot of people have jobs where you go and you work whatever 9 to 5, and it's whatever it is, and like you leave that day, and it's like you could ask them. It's kind of like a kid that comes home from school. Hey, what'd you do today? I don't know.
Like my kids say every day.
I don't know. I did what I was supposed to, I guess. Other than that, like, I don't know, but like creating something I could see. I've never wanted to run a business. I never want to do anything like that. I never even want to do this right here, but it's kind of like a mini business in a sense. But I never wanted to do any of that. So like, I saw people like, you or like my brother-in-law and Tony and like all these people like running business. Like, man, that's a lot of headache. Like, I don't know if I want anything to do with that, but I'm starting to see the aspect of, looking back years later and going, hey, look at, not only did you create something, but you created this almost living organism that provides for people and their families. Like, especially when you start having employees, like, how cool is that at the end of the day, it's like, I put all of this, blood, sweat, and tears into this thing and created this business. And it's great. It's making me money and taking care of my family. But to the point where you have like these employees and these people that you can also help take care of, like, that's got to be, I can only imagine, incredibly rewarding.
It is really, really rewarding. And there's such an opportunity to pour into people, when you have employees and like better people's lives. Right. So like our thing has always been like trying to treat our employees like family, right? Pay better than the competition, treat them great. And we've found, if you treat your employees really good, they turn around and they treat your customers really good. So
and they treat you good.
Yeah, exactly. We have great relationships with our employees, and I can't believe like a lot of time, the team that we actually have running our companies. Like some days I wake up and I like gotta pinch myself. Like I can't believe the team, and I'm not this smart, like really to put all this together. It's a lot of it is God's blessed me with just sent people into my life that have just been a huge blessing to our companies.
Well, it's like the whole thing what I've heard a good business owner, they talk about, you hire the people that are good at the things that you're not.
Yeah.
You fill your gaps.
Yep.
And I heard I can't remember. I wish I remember the guy's name now. He's talking about running a business and your employees. He's like, look, like you should treat your employees like your family.
Yeah.
And you should know what they like and their dislikes and their personalities, because that's what holds your entire operation up.
Yeah.
And it was like, like if more employers like actually treated their employees well, maybe you wouldn't have problems keeping employees, or maybe you wouldn't, have problems with your businesses not running well because your employees don't care.
Yep.
A lot of people, they go to their job, they just don't care about.
Yep.
And it's one thing to not care necessarily about the job, but if you have, a supervisor or your owner or whatever the company is actually takes care of you and likes and treats you well, it's like, well, the job's kind of not, what I'd love to do. I don't know what I want to do, but they treat me really well.
Yeah.
And that's a big piece of it, that human relationship piece of it.
That I've heard it said, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They don't quit jobs, they quit owners.
Yeah. There's multiple times throughout my life I'm like, if I had to work for that guy, there's no way. There's people that like, there's even people that I like. There are people like, oh, have you ever worked with this guy? I'm like, yeah, I've worked with him. I've never had to work for him. Yeah. And those are two very different things. And it's like, well, it's kind of, you might be doing yourself a disservice there by just being a jerk or whatever it is. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like you did a good job of creating a culture, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I've actively like intentionally worked on that. Even over the past year, I've worked with a guy. Do you guys know Dan Owolabi by chance?
I do.
I recognize the name. I don't know.
Yeah, Owolabi Leadership,
Yep.
right? So, but anyways, I've worked with him kind of over the past year, and he's helped me kind of lean into that even more, like culture and leadership. But I mean, it is super important having a good culture where you work. Like I can't emphasize that enough.
Go ahead, bud.
No, you go.
Now I was just thinking of like kind of when you start a business and kind of do that market research and you're like, how do I stand out? Like, what can I do different? What can I provide to my customer that these other companies don't?
Yeah.
Well, what are your customers getting from you with the moving that you feel like they're not getting from other moving companies?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the moving and storage industry, there's a lot of moving companies that are like not very good, right? So you've got like brokers out there, you've got movers who are unlicensed out there. So like, it seems like everybody has like a horror story, and a lot of people are even like scared, right? So it was like,
what's all your stuff?
Yeah.
It's like you're giving it to some stranger.
Yeah. Honestly, in my industry, man, there's always room for a good moving company to open in a major city. There's always room for a good one because there's so many bad ones, right? So if you just go in and you do things right, you train your people, you have great movers, you do really good work, you're gonna build a reputation. Your company's gonna grow. It's inevitable.
Gotcha.
So yeah. For the moving and storage industry anyway. So, I mean, it's like, we're not really thinking that much outside of the box. We're just delivering a really good, treating our employees really good, and they're doing a great job for our clients. And, it just kind of builds up from there. Yeah.
What's the furthest you've ever moved somebody?
Yeah, I think we've done Vegas a couple times.
From Ohio?
Yeah.
Nice.
We do like a lot of like tons of like Florida and stuff, but about 1,500 miles in any direction is kind of our wheelhouse. Outside of that, like the van lines might price out a little bit better once you start getting a little further than that, because they already have like a network of trucks kind of going everywhere. They might get your stuff on with somebody else's stuff, and yeah. So, but at that point, we would just educate our customer, like, hey, you're a little over. We're happy to quote it for you. You're a little over, our wheelhouse of where we go. But what we do give. So if you're moving out of state, right? So we do all like dedicated service. So we're literally going to show up to your house, pack and load your stuff in a day or two, leave directly, drive to wherever we're going, and then unload, right? So it's all like dedicated. It's just your stuff. It's not mixed with anybody else's stuff. So it's like a white glove service. Is with like a van line, if it was like a long distance, they have windows of pickup and windows of delivery. They may hold your stuff for 7 to 14 days, sometimes longer, if they don't have anything else.
Stuff up
Yeah, your stuff will be mixed most of the time. A lot of times with somebody else's, and it could very well be offloaded into a warehouse and then reloaded, like mingled with other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see that getting a little sketchy.
So people are willing to pay, even if it's a little bit more sometimes for that kind of service. So that does set like independent companies or boutique style companies apart a little bit from the van lines, at least.
Well, it goes back to it's your stuff. Like it's all your. I mean, you can always buy more things, but it's still like your things that. You want them to start.
Value.
You want them to get to where they need to be all in one piece, and all of the things. I think you mentioned the culture. It's like I think it's weird to look at. Maybe the past 30 years, there's been a lot of with automation and globalization and everything else. We've had this. Well, we can get it cheaper. You can always get it cheaper. You can always get pricing. It's always I want it. Do the best pricing possible. Yeah. And then we've kind of forgotten about the human aspect of it. Yeah. So you forget about, hey, these people are people too. Like if we treat them well, they're going to come back, and they're going to, it's the worst thing. Like a good reputation is great. It's probably the hardest thing to hold because it's so easily broken by one or two bad things.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, especially when you're dealing with something like that.
In a service industry. Yeah. I mean, like a bad review. You're getting like a 1-star review or something in a service industry. I mean, that's the worst, I mean, I think we're closing in on 800 reviews at Krupp right now.
That's awesome.
But that, man, early on, like when you only have like 30 or 50 reviews and you get like a 1-star review. I mean, like that
drops it
stuff
hard.
is
It's
You're like,
freaking
no
gut wrenching.
good.
You know, it's like you're like calling that customer.
Yeah,
like,
can we
what-
do something?
Yeah.
Please edit your Yelp review. You're killing us here,
What do we
bro.
have? We'll make it right. I promise.
Any Karens you ever work for?
Oh man.
I was just literally thinking. I'm
He's
like, man,
oh boy.
people and their stuff. Like there have to be some people that are just like, no matter what you do, I would imagine something's wrong.
Yeah, there's at least one every year per location of like this, you know, a person who was just like your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe something did go like not right on the move, or right that like set them off, but like, yeah, you run into that person for sure. It happens.
You're never not going to be able to, regardless of what you do. There's
Especially
always
if you're
gonna
doing
be-
a lot of business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, we probably moved
I was gonna say, how many people do you think you moved
between 4,000 and 5,000 people last year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
We moved. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many think if you just do you know like your overall like your how many people you've moved since you've
Oh
started
man,
doing
that
it?
would be no. I don't.
You don't?
I don't know.
Oh, I'd be
I could
interested.
probably sit down
and figure it
and
out.
like use some like averages or something
Right.
like that, and like try and come up with a number or whatever. But yeah, that'd be cool to do.
to know how many people you've moved their stuff for. Like that's,
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting.
Our mailing list. Well, it's not really that big because we didn't start compiling it until just a couple years ago. But I bet our email list is like 15,000 or something like that.
Oh wow,
But yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah.
All of the. I wonder how many miles that add up to be.
Oh,
Like all
my
the
goodness.
miles and all
Yeah.
the poundage of things that you've moved throughout the years. Like that's
Well, we're just coming into this month. We're moving over 1 million pounds of household furnishings so far this month, and we'll move a lot more than that. Yeah, because it's fun. Because like when I log into our CRM and look at like like what we have going on for the month, all the moves and everything, it actually shows like the total weight. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
right.
over 1 million pounds right now.
what's
So-
what's the worst thing to move? Because I've moved a lot as a younger man. I've moved quite a few times. What's like the worst? Because I know I can think of the worst thing that I've ever had to move. What's
Safe.
a piano
Oh,
upstairs.
Yeah,
Like an apartment.
pianos upstairs can be really really tough. That can be challenging.
Yeah.
Safes, we don't mess around with them much over like 800 pounds
Yeah.
unless it's garage to garage.
Yep.
We'll call in like a third party
Like
to do that stuff because
specializes.
somebody dies every year moving safes. We hear about it. On like I'm in like groups for like moving company owners and stuff like that, and it's like one goes and falls down the stairs and lands
Someone's
on
there,
probably.
yeah.
It's
I did
bad.
that. I thought of you the other day. Actually, it was funny because I had to move we replaced our washer. And it probably took too long to move the old washer out. But regardless, I did it. But I did it by myself. So
I even said, Tony, I was like, man, Tony hasn't been in here in a while. It's all cleaned. That washer's gone. Like you can walk straight to the back.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But-
actually use our actual restroom
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, I was like, all right, well, how can I do this? I was like, well, I can take a ratchet strap and hook it around it and like hold it
Yeah.
up and pick the washer up. I was like, I could do this. So I pick it up. I'm like, okay, this isn't that bad. But then I start getting into because the stairway, you have to go up the stairs, and it's like, oh, like the height. You think about
Yeah.
when you have two people moving something, and you have something, so you have to like
Yeah,
duck
yeah.
down, and you have
Yeah.
to try to get to fit, and then like.
Turn backwards and go up.
Yeah, so I turned backwards and went up, and I was like, "Oh, this is tight." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I get halfway up, and my daughter's at the top of the stairs, like, "Are you gonna be okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, we'll find out." And I get all the way up the stairs, and I realize that the washer itself just fits through the door, but my arms
Well-
are wrapped around the sides of the door, and I'm like, "Oh,
This is not.
this
good.
is a predicament." I said, either I'm gonna have to try to somehow set this on the stairs and like reposition myself, or it's just gonna go back down the stairs without me holding on to it.
I did offer
You
my
did.
help
Yeah, you did.
before. And he goes, I think it'll just be easier if I do it myself. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I didn't know any of this was happening.
Yeah, I forgot about the limited space requirement. So like, I can only imagine sometimes you get into some situations where it's like,
Yeah.
like, what do you do when you get like, because there's some like a couch you can't get up to, or a bed or something where like,
It can happen. Sometimes people, remodel and stuff after they put furniture in and they forget, or they didn't remember that it was actually something might have been assembled in the room. Like, oh, it came in here this
Right.
way, and you're like, no, I'm pretty sure that it's like a mathematical impossibility.
right.
That kind of thing happens. Moving items like safes pianos maybe are the most challenging, but like the most difficult types of moves are going to be like sometimes there's hoarders, right? And that can be, sometimes hoarders are nasty, right? So like, but sometimes, yeah, they can be like like we've had situations where we've been at houses like packing up like a hoarder. We won't often take those types of jobs really anymore, but early on you don't turn away as like eviction hoarders. Yeah, we do it all like whatever.
We'll bring our biohazard suits and take care of it.
But I've had guys send me pictures of like dead cats that they found like while packing up a house. You know,
we packing this up.
Yeah, it's like, dude, there's a cat.
Yeah, so is Fluffy going with you or staying here?
So I was gonna ask that when you say that you guys come in and actually pack their thing, like. Do you just come in and take
you don't have
shelves?
to do anything. I'd come into your house to write like it is right now. We would send guys in and they would literally pack and label every single thing. And it'd be super organized as well, and inventory everything for you.
So you realize like you're obviously going to be paying a premium for something like that. But if you have the money, it's like, yeah, it's worth it. Like,
what's that extra service? Like you said, like that's.
Yep. Yeah, it's almost twice as expensive like on a local move to do that way.
I believe that. I mean, that's the bulk of it is packing everything up and just getting it into the truck.
Yep.
Like that's a lot of work.
And then as far as like the packing goes, like corrugated has gotten very expensive the past couple of years as well. So like that's half of the packing cost is just materials and the other half is like labor. Yeah.
That's got to be tricky.
So yeah, like hoarders or like what we call in the industry dirt ball moves. Like you just walk in and it's like nasty and there's like animal feces all over and we walk into that. So you sometimes you don't know till you show up and and we have to make a call whether we're gonna do something like that or not.
Yeah, I can imagine there's some. Have you ever had one like when it's that bad? You're like, sorry, it's just.
Oh yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah. Especially at Summit, like our Akron location, like that happens. That happens probably a few times a month where they show up, and there's that, or the occasional you run into like bed bugs too. We'll get ready to like move a mattress or something, and there's stuff crawling on it, and it's like, okay, we have to be done with your move now. We'll go and load what's loaded up here. We're gonna have to go like have our truck exterminated, throw away all the pads, and
that's a bummer.
But that can happen.
I never even thought about that aspect of it. That's just like makes me itch just thinking about it. Because then you don't want to bring this home. Like your employee, like it's like, all right, come back to the shop. Just throw all your clothes in here. Let's burn them. And here's a robe to wear home. Sorry, sorry, Jim. So do you think that because even more, the more and more I hear about it, it just feels like there's just more and more tenacity and like, just drive to that you have to do something like that because it's that service industry dealing with people because we've talked before like Tony and Corey and they do the trees and you have to deal with people a little bit and there's still those people you have to work around, but you're dealing with obviously people's homes and like them on how much are those people like involved in that process where it's like do you have issues where like, hey, look, like we have stuff to do, like get out of here, because some people are like, oh, be careful with that. Be careful with
like,
you have like those hover
that,
people
just breathe over top you the whole time and won't let you do your job. Yeah, you run into some of that, or clients that like they want to save money by like trying to move stuff, and it's like you can't come on the truck. You can move stuff, but you can't come on the truck.
Yeah, because then you're gonna fall out of the truck and sue us.
Not last summer, but the summer before, we had a customer, right? So we had a zero turn mower on the back of our truck, and we have like split ramps that like we drove it up or whatever. And the customers were unloading. The guys are in the house. The customer's like, oh, I'm just gonna go unload my zero turn. This lady, she fired it up, goes to run off the ramp, and drives her zero turn off the back of the truck. And like it like rolls over on her. She had to go to the emergency room. No. And then family got involved. They tried to sue us over it. It's like,
we're like the ramp's not on there at all. She just drove off the ramp.
Yeah, she didn't even hit the ramp. Like she just like she just it was like a full send, right?
Full send. That would have been a great get that on video, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's
I don't think getting that on video is going to help this situation if they want to be sued.
No.
The whole thing. So
it would have helped me so I could see it because that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, that would have helped us out. It would have helped the investigation. But the insurance company investigated the whole thing and everything. And yeah, so it wasn't our fault. So they did that on their own accord, like completely. Like we didn't ask them to help with that. She just did it.
It totally blew my mind. I could just imagining somebody getting a zero turn driving it off the back of a box truck. 'Cause it's not like a pickup truck. Like it's like twice the
that's a
height.
fall.
Yeah,
It's a heck of a fall.
yeah, it's over 4 feet off the ground.
I just don't know. Like what were you thinking, lady? Like I don't like. No, you just.
There's this thing called gravity
Just
here on
excited
Earth.
to mow her new yard.
As a wife who tries to help, she probably just thought she was being really helpful.
I guess. I mean, but you think like, hey, I'm up here pretty high. Maybe I'll make sure my wheels are on something like on the ramp, but I guess not. Not everybody is familiar with that kind of thing, I suppose. I had one of those. I moved a motorcycle once, but it was like the lift bed, so that makes it a little nicer.
Yeah.
Than, trying to drive something up a ramp.
Ramps.
Yeah, I saw someone do that with a. What was it? I think it was like a dirt biker. It was a motor or crotch rocket or something the other day. They were driving up like a single ramp, and like they got it all the way up, and they realized that once the bike was on the ramp, they couldn't reach it anymore.
Yeah.
And they ended up like grabbing it too hard and grabbing the throttle and just like 12 o'clocked it, like wheelied it off of the ramp and like back down. It was like, oh no. Like you should have thought about this process before you did this, but not everybody, I guess, thinks things, thoroughly through, I suppose. So what do you think has given you the ability to run a business that's so focused on people like that? And, because it takes a lot of either, maybe this is being a little too bold, either a lot of greed for the profit margin or a lot of compassion to be able to deal with people like that on a daily level. In that sense, obviously you said you're kind of stepping away from the day-to-day stuff, so you're not having to go into these houses and deal with these people necessarily on a day-to-day level, but you obviously, I'm sure you did it for a long time.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people can find themselves in like a service industry like that and be able to, do it for the long haul.
It's, whether it's employees or, customers, it just comes with the territory. It's like part of the cost of doing business, right? So if you have a mad customer, at some point, I think you realize like, hey, I could take this as a mad customer and argue with them, or I could treat it as a problem and see if we can turn a bad situation into a good situation, right? Even if it ends up costing me a little bit of money. But maybe I satisfy that, and maybe we get 5 stars and turn it back into a good situation, right? So I think if you approach it with that, those things with that type of attitude can be, it's just all how you approach it.
Yeah. So, but it's are you just in general kind of a people-ish person? And you lean towards, because there's some people I know that, regardless of the business they run and how much they want it to work, they just couldn't deal with some people just can't deal with people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'm a people-ish person. Nothing really phases me too much anymore. Like I've just seen so much stuff happen, whether it was like employees or, a mad customer. And it's like, it's just all part of it. I don't really take it. Yeah, I don't take it like personally anymore. I mean, like you said, I'm not really in the day to day that much anymore. Other people are handling that stuff, but there was a time where it was all me, handling all that stuff, and it does. I mean, it could stress you out, especially if you have like a handful of fires all at one time that you're trying to put out. But I think at the end of the day, if you have a vision and you can see the end of that vision, and you're just trying to get there, you're not going to let that stuff get in your way. That's just today. I have to deal with this today, but I'm on a journey, and I'm trying to get to the other end of this thing.
So you think that's what it's the having the vision and the end goal in mind, and just doing what it takes to get there?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yep.
Where do you think you learned that from? Just because some people, like I said, I never had the desire to like run a business, because you look at it, you see like this, man, just knowing it's like this, it seems like this insurmountable thing.
Yeah.
It's so much to like try to do.
Yep.
So how do you, if going from this nothing to your end vision and goal to constantly push forward, where does Tim Krupp get the strength to do that?
Yeah. and I think I get the strength probably from my failures, but like being a visionary, I think is it's a gift. I believe it's a gift that I've gotten from God, right? So God put a certain toolkit in me. He gifted me like as a visionary. And, when I dream up a business or I'm actively working in a business, like I can see what that end result is going to be, right? I can see where we can go to. And I think when you can see that and you can believe it, it's just a matter of putting in the work to make it happen. And there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. And the bad days, you always learn something from the bad days, right? You can't get to the end result without going through some of that stuff. It's what makes you wiser. It's what makes you smarter. It gives you the experience that other people don't have. That's the education. When I talked about losing my business as a young man, I was like 27. I think I was 27, 28 years old when I lost that business. I'll often say that was like my college education, right? That was my education. The best education I ever had was losing a business early on.
School of hard knocks right there.
Hard knocks, man.
Have you always been that way, or was it something that there was some kind of transition period in your life that, you just kind of learned those things, were taught those things, or was, were you out, were you the lemonade stand guy when you were a kid, or like always trying to create?
Yeah, I was. I started my first business when I was like 11. So I used to wash all the windows, and I grew up in Orville, and I used to wash the windows of the businesses downtown, like for $5 or $10, right? And it was a lot of work, but I mean, like, I'm 11, 12 years old, saving up money and buying new BMX bikes for myself.
That's awesome.
So I've always been kind of industrious that way.
Always looking for the end goal.
Yeah.
Always having the goal.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to ask, piece of advice, man, something that you'd say to like either people thinking about starting businesses or like new business owners.
Yeah, or trying to get to that point, because a lot of people, like we've talked about, you see it and it's like, I know this is gonna be a lot of work. I don't know if I want the end vision that I have. I don't necessarily know if I have an end goal, or like. Yeah.
I mean, when I think of a business, I'm going to launch something, anymore. I spend a lot of time writing out a business plan, counting the cost, counting the 6-month cost, counting the year cost. If you take the time to do all that stuff, and then also lay out realistic projections. Hey, what realistically, what can I do with this business? Year 1, year 2, and making sure that like the money makes sense. First of all, before you just, go into it half cocked. One of the reasons that, the moving industry, like so many people start in the moving industry, is because it's like, hey, let's buy an old U-Haul truck and we'll like grab a couple buddies and then we'll move people on the weekend. That's how moving companies start.
2 guys in a truck, right?
So it's a low barrier to entry for moving and storage. But not all businesses are that way.
Do you have any other businesses that aren't necessarily connected with the moving industry that you're considering, or what the I know we talked about beforehand you were looking at moving.
So outside of like moving companies, and then we talked about the call center, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned you're doing
outside of that, like I'm really mostly interested in either commercial real estate and cryptocurrency. So I have a lot in cryptocurrency, and we even carry cryptocurrency like on our balance sheet. So any money that is like not actively being like for day-to-day operations in our businesses, we have an institutional account on BlockFi. And so I'm kind of a Bitcoin maxi, although I think Ethereum is a good investment as well, and there's some other ones coming along. But
so why
what?
Why cryptocurrency? And why cryptocurrency, and why? Because I'm obviously a Bitcoin. I like to call it a Bitcoin believer. That's
Yeah.
But why crypto, and then why specifically even more geared towards Bitcoin?
I mean,
because everybody, even Bitcoin maxis, all have their different reasons for believing in certain, whether it be Ethereum or whatever it is. Everybody has their own.
Yeah, so the more I like really started to like research cryptocurrency, I see the use case for it, right? So I mean, I think the money of the future, like even like 5-10 years from now, like everybody's going to have cryptocurrency. They're going to be using and spending different types of stable coins, right? Even being like, a Christian and reading my Bible, it talks about like a one world economy, right? So it's like it's like prophetic, right? That this is actually going to happen. It makes sense that this is the direction that money is going to go. Fiat is not working anymore. It is going backwards.
Don't say.
It's going backwards in value, like negative interest rates in Europe, and we're going to be looking at those types of things. Decentralized money is like it's a hedge against inflation, right? And then if you talk about Bitcoin, well, it's the only cryptocurrency that there is a finite amount of. What were there 21 million to start with, right? And there's so there's scarcity, right? As far as that goes. Bitcoin is like digital gold. So it's a store of value. It's not great for buying and selling stuff. We can do that with it. It's not great. I think, converting that to stable coins, eventually there'll be like a Fed coin, that you'll be converting your digital currency to a Fed coin and then buying stuff with your iPhone. Right? Yeah. Everywhere you go. But man, this stuff is right around the corner. We're in this like really interesting kind of like discovery period right now, like where these conversations are happening all over the world. And such a small percentage of the population actually has like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency right now. And the people who are getting in right now, like it's still early. People look at Bitcoin and are like, oh, it's like $45,000 or $46,000 a coin today. I should have gotten in back in 2013. It's like, it's still early. Yeah. It's gonna 10x. Like, I mean, not overnight. It's still kind of a long play. But the people who are getting into it now, there's going to be a major wealth transfer that's going to be happening over the next 5 to 10 years.
I hope so, because I'll be a part of that. Yeah. I think it's you make the point of, I guess that's one thing where that translation from to the normal person, where they look at it, and because I used to think Bitcoin was ridiculous. Okay. It was. Yeah. I used to like when it first came out. I was like, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." But I also said that about camera phones.
Yeah.
So, here we are with that. Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's just you see it. Technology, the time span. When you look at our history and where everything's moving, it's like, all right, well, technology is only going to increase. We're only going to, have more and more integration with our society and technology and everything else. You got. Hopefully, I don't know if I'll, put Elon Musk's, was it the Neuralink or whatever? Yeah. Maybe I might skip out on that one.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but you look at now, even governments are talking about making their own digital currencies. So it's like, well, they didn't do so great handling the normal currencies. I'm not sure if I want to get on boat with their digital currencies, but regardless, digital currencies are coming. Yep. So it's like, all right, like you said, if there's a finite amount, one of my favorite things about it is, and I've talked about it a lot, but is that there's no one controls it.
Right.
No one can just go in there and just and change it. Like no one can print more off like they can do a lot of other ones. So it's to me, that's that. I just wanted curious as to your, the reasons behind it. Cause it's something completely different that I just don't think, like you said, people don't realize, what it could turn into.
Yep.
And that's unless we get something that knocks out all of our power and internet, technology is only going to continue to, grow and, with our lives and what it does.
Yep.
So,
I mean, we're going to have Fed coins, I think, a lot sooner even than we think. I mean, if you think about like, if there was Fed coin and everybody was running around paying for stuff with Fed coin, you don't even have to do your taxes anymore, right? The government can tax every transaction without you filling out a thing. So, I mean, they want that.
Oh, yeah. They want full control. Of course they do. Like, that's the scary thing. That, the U.S. or the, I can't remember I just had a brain fart. But the federal digital currencies, it's like, man, that's kind of a scary thought. Cause that's
as long as it doesn't lead to the old social credit score.
Right. There's that and the fact that like, all right, like, are we still going to be able to use other things? Because if that's the only thing you're allowed using, and it's all right, you get your paycheck from the bank or from the the federal government and their specific cryptocurrency every week or every 2 weeks, like they can track it. Like you said, they know it every single transaction. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of that, but I don't know if we're going to stop it as long as, that's, I guess, the
whole basis for the blockchain.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's kind of my vote for Bitcoin as a basis for digital currencies is at least we have some kind of completely something that a government can't mess with. Sure, they could block it. They could, make it illegal.
Yep.
But that's not going to help that government at all, I think. You know what I mean? It's only going to put them behind the time.
And they're regulating it, which is good things.
Mhm.
Regulation's good. So if they're regulating it, that means that they're actually adopting
they're recognizing
it.
They're recognizing it, and there's so they're like, hey, how can we get more taxes out of this?
Right.
Basically they're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But I think we're to the point where they can't take it away from us. It's too big.
Yeah, I think people are seeing that too because there's a lot of different legislation. They're talking about it, and it's like I'm nervous as to the legislation that'll come out of it. But at least, like you said, like if they're recognizing it, that means hey, if they're regulating it, they're recognizing it, which is a big thing because 5 years ago, it was. This isn't even a thing. Like,
they have to because it's still a little bit of the Wild West. There's things that you can do with Bitcoin that are illegal in stocks.
Right.
The way that they're shorting and stuff like that. You can't do some of that stuff in stocks. Even things like tax harvesting, right? So you could sell your Bitcoin, say it was worth 50% of what you paid for it today. You could sell it and buy it right back and claim that loss. In the stock market, you have to wait 30 days to do that. So like there's things that those regulations are so it's still kind of the Wild West right now. Yeah,
that's but we'll see. I mean, I think we are. I think we're in the middle of societal and global transitioning period into something completely unrecognizable. 20 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I think that kind of happens throughout history. You look at different time periods, usually about 50 years. It seems like 50 to 100 years is about all you got before something drastically changes, especially nowadays. And I think that time span is shortening.
Yeah.
To where, looking back, 50 years ago, 1970?
Yeah.
It's a different world.
Oh, yeah.
Entirely. So what's going to happen in the next 50 years?
It's going to be crazy, man. Everybody's going to be hanging out in the metaverse with like their new like NFT Nikes that they paid $900 for so they can like wear and like hang out with their friends, but like not really.
And their bottle and their bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I did. Was it I think I listened to a podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lex Friedman.
No.
So Lex Friedman's like a MIT guy.
Okay.
And he's like a tech.
He's big in AI.
AI and all these different things.
Okay.
So he had Mark Zuckerberg on. It was whatever. But he was talking about Mark Zuckerberg was talking about well, why wouldn't you pay just as much for a t-shirt in the metaverse as you would in real life? And I'm thinking, because it's not real. But there's people out there that would $100 or $200 Fendi shirt or whatever it is that the kids think are cool. Supreme sweatshirt now, whatever. I don't.
Well, and there's going to be people who are like they struggle in the real world, but they're like super smart on like the computer and everything, and like in the metaverse. Like they could go in and make all kinds of cryptocurrency in the metaverse for doing all sorts of different things for people, and like have that Fendi shirt and like the the Nike kicks.
They can use like cheat codes. They can walk through walls. Like all of a sudden they're like, "Hey guys, what? You don't have to use the door."
I'm gonna buy the house. I'm gonna buy the property next to Snoop Dogg and live there. So like the people that like maybe struggle in the real world, there might be some people that could cross over and like live their best life in their underwear, sitting in a computer chair.
Yeah, maybe.
Actually, in the metaverse.
That's Ready Player One right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the exact same concept.
Yeah, except not as deadly. Hopefully. I don't know. If you die in the metaverse, do you die in real life?
Yeah.
That's a scary thought. I'm sure there's some people that will sit there for a little too long. And
Facebook is... Well, they're called Meta now, right?
Yeah,
and they're saying that they believe that people are going to be spending like 50% of their time in the metaverse. I mean, that's going to be people's like jobs and everything else.
Right.
It's like going to the metaverse and working. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's people will find a way to financially benefit from it. So
yeah,
why not? I did. You're talking about like going to a work meeting. Like if I'm doing a meeting in my house for work, like
with an Oculus on.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Like at least let me like so I can sit there in my PJs and I can like mute and like eat food while I'm like, okay, like let's keep like meetings to have meetings upon meetings. Like I don't need to wear a fancy suit and tie in the metaverse to a work meeting online, but I'm sure it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
You have your cat filter ready.
Yeah. Right. Did you ever see, there was during the whole COVID, they were doing like court hearings on like Zoom or whatever.
Okay.
Like telecourt.
Yeah. It was like basically telecourt, like they show up on the, whatever. And the one, I think it was a judge or an attorney.
I think it was a judge.
He had for some reason, somebody had to be messing with him.
Oh yeah.
But they put a filter on his computer, so like when he showed up on camera, he was a cat. And he's like, I'm not a cat. I'm here. Like it's me. And like the cat's like talking. They're like trying to figure out how to change his filter from his screen. It's like, oh man, like that's what we're in for. A bunch of people that have never because you think about it now, like you figure what internet started mid 90s roughly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really widespread until, early aughts.
Yeah.
Like you could be when we grew up, we didn't have internet until, teenage years.
Yeah.
So like you think of some of these people that are like 60, 70, 80 years old, like no wonder they don't know how to work this stuff. Like I barely know how to work some of this stuff.
I know.
And you've never like they were alive before TVs were invented. Now you want me to get on this computer and like,
oh man, those had to be good times. It's like these phones, like, dude, I get addicted to this stupid thing. It's like I want to pick it up and I want to see if I've got a notification.
Yes.
And it's like, I have to like be intentional about trying to not be like that. Like this digital age it sucks. Yeah. And I wonder if, if it was better back then, it'd be nice to not have to worry about that all the time.
I think if nothing else, I think it's probably internally more peaceful.
Yeah.
Because at least with a lot of people, they get sucked into, the social medias and the different platforms. And I'd never had been on Twitter until I started the show.
Okay.
So it was just like, I wanted to be, because we talk about everything, like whatever it is that people want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so I at least want to kind of have an idea of what's going on. So like, all right, I didn't have Facebook for probably, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. And I'm like, all right, okay, I'll get back on these things for the show. And then you realize like it's brutal. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced Twitter, but like
I'm on Twitter, but the only things that I follow are cryptocurrency stuff.
Okay.
So that's all I see.
But even some of those like chats, like I'll go through and it's people are mean.
Yeah, they are.
They're just like, you scroll through like, wow, like all these people are so angry. And you do this all day long. Like even if you're being a troll and you're like messing with people on purpose and you're not actually upset.
Yeah.
Like doing that, just pretending to be a jerk all day long. That's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and that's what I don't understand that. I deal with a lot of different people as well. And some people, like I'll meet them on their properties and I'll talk to them and it's like, they're just so angry.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, sir, I just want to be like, sir, you're 75 years old. You've been retired for 15 years. Like, how are you still so angry and so like mean? I just I don't understand how you live your life like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think some of those things on the phone and the things that we do are just have created this internal strife within us that just
and I
rest.
think there's a lot of times people say stuff on social media that they wouldn't say if they were sitting across from you. They're fine sitting at home like typing it in.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Yeah, I've heard that quote by Mike Tyson. It's something about was it everybody on social media, you gotten too comfortable talking shit without getting punched in the face for it. It's like, because sometimes you say the wrong thing to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Hey, you might get
found out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you found out. We got to tell the kid that every once in a while because I'm super sarcastic. We joke around the house and so daughter's 10 and she's starting to like pick up on that and like starting to like try that like sarcastic humor. Like she misses more than she gets it.
Yeah.
When she gets it, it's hilarious. But like every once in a while she'll say something. I'm like, no, that one didn't land.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't say that to people. Like, cause eventually like you're going to run into somebody that's not going to like what you have to say. Even if you're joking around, it's not going to turn out well for you. So think about what you're saying before you say it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't think people it gives them this like cover of, anonymity, and that's not, we messed that one up. And come on, Tony, help me out. Anonymity. There we go.
Yeah.
He's my word guy.
Yeah.
That you just don't, like you said, you wouldn't say that to someone like you mean the street. Like, why?
Yeah.
I guess that's the part I don't get. Like people just want to say mean things to people and say ridiculous stuff. I don't know. I guess if I was probably, maybe like 15-year-old me would probably say some things I probably shouldn't say. I'll put it that way. A young person where you're like, and then 15 years later, you're like, oh, I was kind of a jerk.
What's the Dan test? It's if it's not true, kind, necessary, and encouraging, maybe it doesn't need said.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be true and not kind, but sometimes truth needs to be said as well.
Yeah.
So it's
For sure.
How do you do that as a business owner? How do you handle those difficult conversations and difficult situations with either your customers or your employees? Because I can imagine that's kind of probably one of the more difficult things to balance out as a business owner and someone that runs those things. It's like you're put in this difficult situation.
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah. So if it was an employee, one of the things I like to do if I'm going to sit down and we're going to have like, if you're pulled into the principal's office and we're going to have a conversation, I'd probably start off talking about, hey, these are some of the things you're doing great, right? I would probably lead out that way and then circle back around to like this is what we really need to work on right here, right? So that's probably how I would approach that thing. A lot of times with customers, upset, mad customers, people just want to be heard.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you take the time and just let them give you an ear beating, it goes a long way. So if you just listen to people, and empathize with them, that'll go a long way.
Yeah, I've seen that sometimes too. I've gotten yelled at. I haven't not so much recently, but there's times where like you have that customer, that person, like you said, you never realize that some people just want someone to yell at.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay,
okay,
yeah, yep, okay,
yep.
okay, yep. Are you okay? Are we
this
done?
really isn't about the power line coming through your yard, is it?
Yeah. So are we done yelling now? Okay, well let's discuss it. Sometimes you can't, but I don't know. I guess it goes back to some people you just have to read, and some people just want to be miserable. They don't want to be. They don't want to be calmed down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that is. That internal struggle though, with some people that just. It just seems like there's like zero like peace to their life.
Yeah.
I don't like, you can't do that for everybody, but I don't know. I guess that's one thing I've always, I don't know, don't get all woo woo, but like felt from you, like there's just always been like a internal peace that you have.
Thanks.
I don't know whatever it is. It's like just kind of exuberates off of you. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen you angry. Do you get angry? I can't see Tim getting angry. I don't know if I ever have.
Yeah, I do. Like there's only been, a small handful of times where I've actually had to like raise my voice, even to employees, like at work and stuff like that. So I think like, if you're always kind of like, if you're down here and you're pretty even keeled, like you don't have to jump all the way up here to get a result from somebody, right? So sometimes if you're right here, if you just come like right here, it's like, well, Tim's really pissed. It's like you didn't even really have to raise your voice or whatever.
I can see that. Yeah. Have you always been like that, or is that something that was just learned through?
I think it's part of how I'm wired. Also just through doing this and working with people for a long time. Like I said, I think I'm in a place like where not a lot really surprises me. We had a truck catch on fire this week. The guys called me and they're like, "Hey, the truck's on fire."
Like fire? Like did it burn down fire, or just like something was
the motor blew up and the truck caught on fire? Oh no! Right. So I mean, and it was like it's just like.
Were they on the side of the highway, or was it someone's? Oh,
no. They're just coming home, and it's just like, okay, it's just part of that's unfortunate. Sometimes
things catch on fire. Was it empty?
Yeah,
Oh,
they were
that's
getting
good then, at
back. They
least.
were getting
Could you
back.
imagine that call? Excuse me, Mrs. Smith. We will not be making it to your destination with your valuables because they caught on fire on the highway. Have you ever had anything like that happen where you like lost or like the people's like stuff got just destroyed all in one? Like,
No, we've never had like a whole loss
Well, that's
like that. Yeah, so
Sorry.
that's good. I mean, that would be a tough phone call, but if it's an if it's an
Yeah.
accident, things like that can happen. It's unfortunate to have to make that phone call, but surprisingly, if it was an accident, I think people wouldn't be happy, but they would understand. It's not like we were being negligent. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was just last week. I can't remember where it was at now. It was like a giant. It's like 20 plus semi pileup on the highway.
Yeah.
It was a snowstorm.
In
And-
PA, I think.
Was it in PA?
I thought it was.
I saw it, but somebody had video of it, and it was like these because it was like fog and snow, and like these cars and semis just kept on. They're just sliding and just.
Yeah.
It's like, man, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah. Go for the wild ride, man. Hold on.
What about, so you mentioned Bitcoin and then commercial real estate.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of the ideas with commercial real estate and then kind of like what sector of commercial.
Yeah, so probably for me, I'm more interested in like warehouse space, warehousing type stuff. So I'd like to. I don't own the properties for all of my businesses at this point. So I'd like to have businesses paying for the properties, right? So we have that in Akron at Summit, but we're leasing in Columbus, and we're leasing the furniture store space, and we also lease for Krupp Moving and Storage in Worcester. Which makes sense this time around, especially like what we can lease stuff here in Wayne County for is really, really reasonable. Columbus is like crazy expensive, but we don't know how big we're gonna have to get yet down there. So it's too early to make like a big decision and just go and buy something.
True.
I've almost bought things in Worcester a number of times that I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't do that because at the time it seemed like a big space. And now what, I realized the space that, we would actually need is, a lot of the things I would have purchased weren't even close to what we need now. So, yeah, but, commercial real estate for all the businesses. I like diversifying a little bit. I don't want to like over diversify, all right? Because that's not really the way you build wealth. The way you build wealth is really going all in on something. But I like the idea of businesses paying for the real estate and then any excess money savings being in cryptocurrency. So that's kind of like my business plan, I would say. That's my long-term plan. Yep.
Now, is that, you mentioned building wealth? Is that the intent of passing it down or just for fun?
Yeah, well, the Bible talks about building generational wealth, right? So I want to build generational wealth for my family, number one. Number two, I also want to sow into ministries, like in a big way, whether it's going to be like missionaries or churches and there's a lot of different little things that we do. My wife and I found ministries and stuff that we like to pour into. But we want to be a people that God can trust that way, that He can pour wealth through, and to know that we're going to be faithful and that we're going to bless ministries that way. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you I think you didn't you guys just recently, what was that? I might be thinking something wrong. Did you guys just recently build for in this Worcester location for your moving stuff? Did you build it?
Oh yeah. So I don't own it, but it was built like to
and then
suit.
you ended up.
It was built to suit. So I got in on that deal early.
I got you.
And I was able to work with the guy that I lease it with, and they built the building exactly how I wanted it.
Okay, because I remember seeing it built. I'm like, oh, that's a big place. I wonder what's going on. I'm gonna wonder what they're doing back there. And then a couple months later, I'm like, oh, look at Krupp doing it, man. That's a nice place, nice location for you.
It's been awesome being in a place that's like intentional for the moving company. For a long time, Krupp, it was like, dude, I started out of my like garage, and like our last place before we moved here was like 3 or 4 different warehouse buildings on a property, and our offices used to be a tanning salon, right? So like people's offices, literally, there used to be like a tanning bed in there. Like that was like
It's
a
still
tanning
does
bed
it still
room.
smell like tanning?
Yeah, so it
salon?
smelled like
It's-
it smelled
had
like
to.
coconuts for the first year.
Coconuts and burnt
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah, that's what it smelled like in there. It was hilarious. We'd be in there doing work too, and you'd have like, people like come in with like tanning lotion in their hand and like look around and
Like, yeah, sorry.
sorry, this is a moving company now. It's not a tanning salon anymore. So
funny.
yeah, so being in a place that was built just for what we do and like
Right.
to our specs is a blessing.
That's got to be. I was gonna say it's got to be it's gotta be like a personal victory for you to like
Yeah,
get to that point and finally like look like it's finally paying off.
Yes.
all of the work that you put in, because now you're what? It's been. Well, you said you started around 2005,
yeah,
so 17 years you've
yeah,
been into it, and
yeah,
it's finally paying off.
yeah. It's been a journey, man. It's definitely been a journey.
I
It's all been worth it though. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like I got a lot left in the tank too. So I'm excited for this, for this next chapter. I told you I'm moving down to Florida
Right.
in a couple months. So just really excited to get down there, spend time, just like really focus on like my wife and my kids. Cause I spent, there was a lot of years where, I worked really hard, and even where if I was home, I might have not been like super present
Right.
and things like that. So, in a way, it's like, hey, I really want to redeem this time that I have with my kids. They're 11 and 12 right now, and like really pour into them over the next 8 to 10 years of life. So,
Because I think it's a big struggle too. People have starting a business or doing something on their own, especially that transition period of whatever you're leaving and going to. It's just work.
yeah,
It's constant around the clock
Yep,
work
yep.
because there's no one else is going to make it work except for you.
yep,
So it's like, how do you balance out that life, outside of work, but
Yeah.
still kind of grow
yeah.
your business? Like, it's how do you find? Was that always necessarily a struggle for you? But like, was it something that you tried to, like actively like do something
Yeah.
with, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I've
as
been
far as-
intentional about it. I think the process goes, you start a business, and then, at some point you're like wearing every single hat, and you're looking around and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm being torn in so many different directions. And then you start to just, figure that out. But at some point, yeah, I decided like, hey, I need to be intentional about like self-care. Right. So,
Yeah.
like I've got to get a good amount of sleep, right? I have to go to the gym and be fit. Otherwise I just don't feel right, and I don't
Right.
operate right. So I've got to set aside like, times to do those types of things. Got to have date night with the wife. I want to be off. I want to be done working by 4:00. Even if I'm working from home, like when I'm working
Right.
on stuff, it's like, okay, it's 4:30. I'm done, family, kids. All right, I'm here. Let's hang out.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, after all those years, once you get the business built, if there's nothing left except for the business,
Yeah. Who cares?
yeah, what'd you do it all for?
Yeah. What'd you do it all for?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I've had the conversation because I'm on the like kind of the opposite side where I'm like, well, I got my bills paid, so like whatever. But I see these people that they're working real hard for building the businesses and wanting to build that wealth, and that's like awesome. But it's like how, I guess, when it's
At what
one of those,
cost?
yeah, at what cost, and when is it enough?
Yeah.
Not that obviously building wealth or building a business, and because we talk to a lot of people that are entrepreneurs and they're going and doing their thing, and that's absolutely incredible. But I guess like it's that question of, do you have when is it enough? Like,
Yeah.
kind of.
So if that is your thought, right? Then you probably shouldn't be a business owner, right? So it's not about when is it enough. Have you ever read Good to Great? You ever read that book?
Mm-mm.
It's a good book. But it talks about like a lot of like the most successful business owners and CEOs, they're not money driven,
right.
right? Money's great, and it's a great tool for a lot of things, and it's a blessing to be able to have money to buy nice things or whatever. But those aren't the things. Like if you want to be if you want to build a lot of wealth, build businesses, be a great leader, like that's not like what you're thinking about, right? So I do this because I love it, and because I love building things. I love creating jobs for people. And I also believe that like this God, I literally believe that when I'm building businesses, it's worship, right? Because this is what God wired me to do. This is the gifting that he gave me. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it like I'm doing to him every single day. And I'm going to do my best at it. And we're going to see where it ends up. But it's not about a dollar amount. It's not about like when I get to, this amount of money, then I'll be happy. Then I'll quit building businesses. It's like then, I would be denying myself, at that point. I'm always going to be building something. Even if it goes from business to more like, hey, I'm really involved in this church and in this ministry. I'm helping with like I've got a heart for like outdoor events, like what Billy Graham used to do, right? So this church down in Florida when we moved down there, we're going to start going to this church. They do huge outdoor events, like 10,000 people come. Actually, compared to Billy Graham, that's not that big yet, but they've been doing it for a few years. They got like 10,000 people coming to this event. But I could see myself getting involved in that and pouring out my gifts, in that at some point too. So maybe some point I decide, hey, I have financial freedom. That's fine. I'm gonna let my businesses continue to do their thing, and I'm gonna focus all my efforts now on this and go that direction. So it would just get redirected, really. So
it's 4:00 at each day is when it's enough. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, maybe that's what it is. It's all right, 4 or 5 o'clock. All right, it's enough for today. We'll set it aside.
Yeah.
You talk about your faith multiple times. So how did you find that, and what is it? What did it mean to you, to find that faith, and where did that come from, and what is that kind of
my faith journey?
Yeah.
So when I was 27 years old, so I'm a musician, I'm a drummer, that, right? So and I was living like a real rock and roll lifestyle.
Drummers usually do.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, but anyways, I remember standing out back of my house one day. I was probably 26, 27 years old, right? Drinking like the last beer of the night that I had, and like smoking my very last cigarette, thinking to myself, like, I'm so not satisfied right now. There's got to be more to life than this, right? And my mother-in-law and father-in-law had invited us to go to church, and it was like a Christmas Eve service church at Worcester Bible Church downtown. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
And anyways, the whole time that I'm sitting there during the service, we agreed to go. We're sitting in the service. The whole time I'm sitting there, I thought my father-in-law Jerry told the preacher all about me. Everything that he was saying was like ringing my bell. And then towards the end of the service, I realized that like my father-in-law didn't actually tell him anything, and that it was just God was speaking through this preacher to me, specifically. And there was an invitation, and I trusted Jesus at the end. I knew going home that day that I was different, that something had changed, right? And I never have been the same. God cleaned me up. It wasn't an overnight process. I wish that my testimony was like I got saved and trusted Jesus and I never touched a drug again. I never drank alcohol again. But it was a process, right? So God began doing like a work in my heart, and I started getting in the Bible, praying, just really developing that relationship with Him. Man, and it's. You talked about that inner peace. I don't know that I've always had that. I think a lot of it comes from because I trust my Savior so much, and I trust God so much, and I trust Him with my life and like where my life is going. Like He's in control. I'm trying to be sensitive to His leading, but I know ultimately He's in control, and I'm just being sensitive to His leading as I go on. So it's been an awesome journey. There is no adventure like going on an adventure with Jesus, and I'm looking. It just keeps getting better and better. Yeah.
Well, good for you. Obviously, it's working out for you. Yeah.
Can I ask you
whatever you want.
What's your faith journey like? Where's because we went to church for a long time. You were pretty involved.
Yeah. So it's tough. I was introduced at a younger age.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those deals where it was kind of like. It wasn't necessarily voluntary, at first.
Yeah.
It became voluntary. But I had struggled a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
And then through my teens. And this is just me personally, you know, it was one of those things where maybe that trying it is not the right word. Because I was all in. And then there's just something that just never, at least for me, just never quite, maybe didn't like quite sit right or pan out properly for me.
Yeah.
Whether that was me or whatever the other factors were in that situation. But it was just something that I didn't find necessarily like after all of it, I was still very, I still struggled a lot.
Yeah.
And I was never really happy.
Mm-hmm.
I never had any type of, I never had that inner peace, that
Yeah.
you could see from people. And it was like, man, I don't know if that person's really happy or not, but
Yeah.
man, they sure seem at peace.
Yeah.
I never had that ever. And I guess for me, I don't know if I necessarily gave it the enough room or what it was, but I think initially I had to deal with some things on my own.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with some internal things that
Yeah.
that just maybe I was trying to use that to kind of deal with those things.
Yeah.
And it, not all things can be, healed that way or whatever it is. Obviously it's a lot of details I'm leaving out here because it was, 20 some odd years of, whatever. But it was one of those things where afterwards, I had kind of done my own soul searching instead
Okay.
of, hey, this is how you do this. And hey, this is how you,
Yeah.
so I just I had to start kind of from fresh. So
Yeah.
I kind of backed away from everything. And
Yeah.
it was like, okay, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, what do I believe in?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I believe in these things that I think that I've believed for the last 15 years? Like, I don't know. I've never really asked myself those questions because when you start out when you're a kid and it's like, hey, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when you get older, you're like, wait a minute, I've been doing this thing for, 15, 20 years. Like, I don't even know who I am,
Yeah.
let alone, obviously anybody that, you don't really know anything in your, when you're a kid, when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
And then that mid 20s, I had that same kind of realization. I sat there. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is this whole thing about?
Yeah.
Like, what is this life? Like, what am I? Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm never, and it's like, like that mid 20s, it's like, I always say like, I basically was clueless and a jerk until almost 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have no idea what's
Yeah,
going on,
yeah.
but like, it was that late 20s where like, I think a lot of people go through that where it's like, not like a midlife crisis by any means, but it's like, oh, like, what is this whole thing?
Yeah.
Like, what's this life I'm going through? And I didn't necessarily, I never really necessarily went back to, Christianity, like the religion or anything like that. But it's, to me, I kind of came out of it as I just wanted to do better and I wanted to be better and I wanted to be a better person.
Yeah.
And I found I had to figure out how to do that, internally and for myself first before, I guess, applying, and this is how my brain, applying something additional to it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I kind of stepped away from the church.
Yeah.
And I don't really participate anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just something that like, I realized I needed to figure out for myself
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm just doing something just because I think I should be doing it,
Yeah.
that's not the right way to do it either.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
like doing something wholeheartedly and genuinely,
Yeah.
and to do that, I had to kind of I had to strip myself all the way down.
Yeah.
To nothing.
Yep.
And I was nothing for a little while and it was rough,
Yeah.
but, I came out of that thinking, okay, like I don't know, religion or spiritually or what I necessarily believe. I think I would, I guess, categorize myself as kind of agnostic. I just don't know,
Oh,
and I have a hard time
Yeah.
with, I'm very, my brain is very like engineered wired.
Yeah.
So I like to know how and the whys and what's,
Yeah.
and it's difficult to mesh with faith because it's how do I reconcile the hows and what's and whys when you can't, because they're in a sense like you can't know. I'm very careful with even teaching our daughter of using words like know and think. I know this.
Yeah.
I think this.
Yeah.
I joke all the time. I don't know the earth is round.
Mm.
I don't know that it's not flat. I think, I'm pretty sure it's spherical, but I don't know because I've never been in space to see it. You know what I mean? So like, I guess that's kind of where I come. It's, I don't know these certain things. So it's like, but I do know that I want to be a better person. I want to be a good person. I want to be nice to people, you know, and I want to do that. So it's like, I just don't know the other layers to apply of how I want to pursue life in that way. Yeah. So, I don't know. Is basically the long story short.
I think I went through a little bit of a similar journey because, and a lot of people who actually like grow up in the church, you know, I know a lot of people who grew up in church, and they just thought because that their family went to church every Sunday that they were Christians, right? And then found out later that like, oh, I've actually never like made this decision for myself. Right. This was my parents' religion, or this was my parents' faith, and I thought that I was a Christian because of them and because of you know the culture that I grew up in, right?
And when you grow up, that's all you know.
That's all you know. And there comes a time like that people have to make that decision for themselves. Like, am I going to choose this? Am I going to make this my own or not? And then I think there's another side of it where you talked about like stripping yourself down and not having you know that inner peace. Going through you know, coming out of a life of like addiction, right? And then getting saved, and then God kind of like pulling me out of that life. Not that, and there were some struggles along the way. I actually lead a recovery ministry at my church. I had major questions on why do I still struggle, right? Why do I still struggle with this temptation? Why do I run to these other things? To fill my needs, and like why can't I just get that from you, like the Bible says that I'm supposed to? And I got a counselor for a little while, right? For like 6 months, I worked with this like Christian counselor, and I would come at her with these types of questions, and every single time I would propose to her, this is my struggle, she would show me how God loved me, right? And how God sees me. Right. So God sees me through the lenses of, you know, like when Jesus got baptized and he came up out of the water, right? So John baptizes him, and like the heavens opened and a dove descended, and God the Father said, "This is my son in who I'm well pleased." Right. God sees me like that. Right. And if you're in Jesus, that's how God sees his sons and daughters, is he is well pleased with us, even in the struggle. And if we don't, when we don't believe that, because like we're carrying around some baggage because we're not we don't think that we're a good enough person or something like that, that gets in the way between our relationship with God, right? So like that clogs it up. So when you talk about like, hey, I had to strip myself down, right? And that sounds to me like a process of you going back and saying, hey, I've got to learn to love myself, right? I got to learn to like respect who I am, before maybe God can love me, or maybe before other people can love me, and things like that. So like that, I don't know, that resonates deeply with me, because it's like, man, I took 6 months of my life and tried to figure some of that stuff out, right? Because there was stuff between me and God that it was just like, all along it was just me, you know, like God he loved me the whole time, but I didn't love me. I didn't think that I was worthy, and I was trying to put that back on him, when all the whole time he's just like, it's like the prodigal son. He's just saying, just come home. I love you. Just come home.
Yeah. I think part of that too is that, you know, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
And I couldn't answer those things.
Yeah.
You know, and you realize like, why am I doing these things? Because that's just what I do.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
So like, why? Like, why am I doing, like, why am I this way? Or why am I doing it? So it's like, all right, let's break this down and understand, you know, and let's put the blame squarely where it lies.
Sure.
It was on me.
Yeah.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
But it was like, I couldn't pretend to do something if I knew I was pretending.
Yeah.
So, at that moment, it was kind of like, I realized, I'm like,
I ain't going to be a hypocrite. I ain't about that.
Yeah. Because I've just been pretending. And then, you know, and I had some frustrations at different things and religions. And you know, a lot of people get angry at religion. A lot of people get really mad.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is. And I realized like, all right, well, if I'm going to sit here and go, well, I'm just faking all this and I don't know what it is, and I have no idea what I'm doing or who I am or how I think about myself, like, let's take it all away and let's start from scratch. Because I didn't want to be somebody that that was just faking it anymore.
Yeah.
Whether it be to myself
Yep.
or my wife
Yep.
or, my religion, and if I'm going to believe in this God, like then, well, if I'm obviously he knows I'm faking it. Like, so let's start from fresh here and then let's start building this back up to decide where we want to take this, because it's like, and you realize it's not the God, it's not the religion. It's the circumstances around certain things. One of them, including being me.
Yeah.
That was the problem. So it's like, all right, you know what I mean? Like it's when you like, so I don't have any animosity or, anything like that towards, God or the religion or anything like that. It's just one of those things where now it's like, all right, what am I doing? I don't know. Like, I don't know as far as like religion goes, but I do like, I was like, all right, well, I do know I want to be a better person. And I want to stop faking things. And I want to stop being a liar. Yeah. So I'll start there and, we'll see where this leads. That was kind of where I got it from. And it's, and I understand that, like, I guess I've seen now the difference. I don't like the word religion because I think it has a very specific, I think there are religions. Yeah. But then there's faith, and then there's all these things get broken down into very, very different things. Yep. So it's like, what does it mean to you versus what's it mean to me versus whoever? Like, it could be a lot of different things.
And you know this, because I mean, we've heard a lot of the same preaching, but like a relationship with Jesus isn't about going to church. It ain't about giving money to church. It ain't about I have to do this and I have to do that.
Right.
It's literally just a relationship, and it looks different for different people. If you want to be a Christian and not go to church, you can do that if that's your choice.
Right. Yeah. I think that was probably I struggled with a lot at certain points, was like, well, you think growing up, it's like, well, if I'm going to do this, or if I'm going to, be a good person, that means I have to do this and this and this, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And
it's hard to keep, it's hard to keep up with all that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can't do all this. I can never be good enough to do all these things. Yeah. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too, it was the perception of what a Christian or any type of religion is it's created by the views of the people that are practicing it.
Sure.
And then you look at, all right, well, what would you be doing if you lived, I think maybe mentioned before we started talking, like I was mentioning, I don't know who I was mentioning to, but I started watching a show with their kid. It's called Life Below Zero, I think it is.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, so
show.
it's these people that live like near or some of these people like way north of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah,
and they live for months by themselves in these camps, and they're just subsistence like livers, whatever it is. And it's like, well, all right, well, if you're there, like, does it make you less of a Christian because you're not going to church and you're not giving your tithe and you're not doing these certain things, you're not going 2 days a week and doing this, that?
Right.
Well, no, like the opportunity's not even there. So like all of those things are constructs like built by the people that have built them.
Yeah.
Not, and I'm totally down with the relationship thing. And I totally get that. And that, so like when I talk to people like that, it's like, okay, like to me, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you don't go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays and give this amount of money and do this,
and
that, whatever,
it's
like
your kids and churn your own butter.
Yeah, like like I mean, I'm sure the butter's delicious, but you know what I mean? Like it's like, wait a minute, like these are just all like man-made constructs that we've built around this. So like that's where I saw that disconnect. I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like so that's where like people can see those things, and when man gets its hands on things and starts moving stuff around. It's like, well, like, I'm not saying those things are bad.
Yeah.
Those things might be very good.
Yeah.
But
and a lot of them are.
Yeah.
A lot of them are good things. A lot of them are good practices. But it's,
and the people that practice are very good people for the most part. I mean, you're going to have some here and there, but that's people.
Yeah.
So when you realize that, like, being able to, I'm very easily able to separate those two things and not get, because some people, like, they grew up in a religion or whatever it is, they grew up in a certain custom.
Yep.
And then they leave it. And it's like, forget those people, like they're terrible, like all this, that, whatever. It's like, well, no, like, let's not go crazy. Like trying to understand and find your own path is
when you, let me ask you this. When you look around and you look into nature, do you see a creator? Do you see evidence of a creator?
So I will say I think there is so I don't know. And I don't know if it's, see, where I go is I go all the way to the root. Are things have a similar design, or is it because of the conditions that they began to exist in follow those patterns? Because any type of condition where even on a short term, like use like an evolutionary condition on short, evolution happens. Obviously some people think that it happens on a much grander scale. And, I think typically maybe not typically, but regardless of what it is, if something is created in a certain environment, or it happens to form in a certain environment, well, it's going to reflect its environment. So was it all created with a similar design, or was it just a product of its environment? I don't know. I'm not however many thousands or whatever years old to see it happen. So that's where I have the problem. Is like, I don't know, but like knowing and belief is different. So I see what you're saying. And I think there are a lot of things where it's like, well, that's a little interesting and coincidental. Like, is it coincidental? I don't know. Maybe it was created that way.
Yeah.
I'm open to the thought. Okay. Obviously, I haven't completely, closed it all out. Like, I just, like, I guess that's why I said would describe myself as agnostic. I think, like, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, and I don't know. Like, and I don't know.
Fred, I cannot think of a better thing to be curious about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get what you're saying. I do. It's, but it's, I don't know. It's a tough one. And I think that's, I guess ultimately we all have to make that decision of what do we, what do we believe is out there? Like, cause it's, you go halfway across the world, there's very similar, like all these stories and all the same kind of, most beliefs all kind of have the same kind of structure in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. What's the right one? Yeah. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'm going to do my best to do the best I can for the people around me and the people I meet. And, just if nothing else, I at least want to, I'm starting out baby steps here, Tim. I just want to be a nice person and a good person and try to work my way, up and figure out all of life's mysteries after that. But I had to start somewhere. I had my own rebirth at probably 20. That's probably 27, 28, I guess, somewhere around there. Yeah. So I don't know, if nothing else, if I can make the world a little bit better of a place on my way there.
Yeah.
Then
dude, I'll tell you what, man, outside of Jesus, like outside of like trusting him when I was 27, 28, I wasn't really like that good of a person, right? I wasn't a good person. I wasn't an honest person. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about other people. Something about that and putting my faith in him changed me, right? And I've seen the evidence of what that's done in me, and that's not who I am naturally, right? So I've got to see like this progression and what God is leading me into that is like, that's not who I was. That's not the direction that I was going. The tides have completely changed.
No, and I appreciate that. And I guess for me, I struggle with that because when I thought I had all of that, I was a terrible person.
Yeah.
I mean, not terrible. I mean, there's obviously worse people out there, but it was one of those things where like, after all this, and it was like, man, like I look back, I'm like, I'm not really all that. Like I was upset at some people, and I got angry, and I knew I had some different things to work out. But it was like, I looked back at myself. I'm like, well, I'm not that great of a person either. So like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like, I mean, I'm better than I was. I'm working, but you know what I mean? It was difficult because it's like, what is it that, makes people, try to progress and just be better? I don't know. I think it's a little different for everybody.
Where are you at on all this, Tony? You're quiet over there on this topic.
Just listening. No, I mean, we grew up in the church.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and then like you said, there comes a point where you kind of actively choose if you want to have a relationship with Christ.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I did that twice actually. remember I got baptized, and my mom said they held me down extra long.
Yeah. That's awesome.
She's like, we gotta cleanse you, son. You're too wild. So
I love that.
yeah. But no, I mean, right now I'm not at church. We've been at church before. I still pray pretty regularly. I haven't read the Bible in a while. I used to be pretty good about doing the devotions. I think when I was reading the Bible, I would say that relationship with Christ was more active.
Yeah.
Because I was learning.
Yeah.
I definitely took some deep dives into the, I can't think of the word for that right now. I was doing like the Matthew Henry commentary and really kind of like digesting it, like
getting into theology.
Yeah, there
right?
we go.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, like I said, man, I still pray.
That's awesome.
Every night we pray with my daughters. And I guess like just trying to not even the like be a good person, but like try and give something back to the world. In terms of like attitude, like positivity, good energy.
Yeah.
And like you're saying about just trying to be better, be better every single day and give something back to people and help them in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that's, on a, like you want to do that on a personal level,
Yeah.
but trying to figure out how to do that on like a global level. And I think it's that level of like infection that, you talk to someone and you're positive and all of a sudden, like, then that person's like, oh, they're positive, and it kind of creates this chain reaction. Or, you go out of your way to help someone and they're like, oh man, maybe I should help someone too.
Yeah.
Like something seems different about that dude. Like he has some inner peace. Like, well, what's going on with that inner peace? And then they have conversations like this, and then they, it just kind of keeps spreading, and it's infectious. But yeah, I try and do that with the healthcare stuff that I do, which is pretty wild to see, like how you can affect some like patients. And I do addictionology, so I deal with substance abuse.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's pretty cool. And then I'm the director at the jail here in Wayne County.
Okay.
And so I don't get as much opportunity to talk with the detainees or inmates. But with the substance abuse, it's actually a lot of one-on-one time, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And leads to some fantastic conversations. And that's something I always try and get my addiction patients to understand. I'm like, that addictive personality, I'm like, right now it's not a good thing. And I said, it's not a good thing because, you haven't focused on something that's not constructive.
Yeah.
But I'm like, some of the most successful people I know, like, took that addictive personality, turned it into something that was constructive instead of destructive.
Yeah.
And they're just crushing it.
Yeah.
With a business, or with being, a good dad, or with being a good husband, or and so trying to like kind of reroute that in the correct direction.
Yeah.
And I always think of like, I know I've said this before, but I always think of like like love in general, and it's like this umbrella. And if you can figure out a way to try and like love in all circumstances and all people, despite how hard that might be, there's like this trickle effect, and there's this positive things come from it.
Oh yeah, dude. If you're operating in love all the time, you're either operating in love or fear. It's one or the other.
Yeah. And I will say, as Tony mentioned his kids, I think we've tried really, really hard to not necessarily lay out the options, but allow, our child to make those own decisions and to kind of find her own path, in a sense of here's some different things. Like, but I want her, like, she actually just went to church and Sunday school with one of her friends the other weekend. She was like, hey, like, can I go to church? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. For sure.
Cool.
Like, I don't like, I never wanted to, I don't want her to, one, have the same experience that I did of being
like
kind of
force-fed it.
Yeah. Kind of
almost,
force-fed it, and then question it all.
Yeah.
It's, here it is. And this is, I want to teach her about, the religions all the way over across the world too. Like, hey, these are these different things that people kind of believe in, and they all, in a way, they all kind of have a similar construct, but
Sure.
I want you to find it, make it your own. Like you said, make it your own.
Yep.
Whatever it is, like, I want you to make it your own, because no one can do it for you.
Yeah.
And if we try to make it yours, it's us doing it, not you. So like you have to do it. And
Yep.
whatever path that you decide that like you have, hey, once you're 25 and have that little quarter life crisis and go, what am I doing? Like it has to be you to make the decisions. Because if somebody else is making decisions for you, then they're never going to be, that you're never going to feel good about them.
Yeah.
You're never going to hold on to them, and you're never going to truly have that, faith.
Yep.
And I think that's that transition of like belief in religion is different than faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can believe
100%.
you can believe in something and, still have it be like a religion thing and still not, do any good with it.
Yep.
Until it turns into, hey, this is a faith that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% behind that. Like whatever anybody wants to do, like all for it. Like more good for you.
Yeah.
I just still don't know. But so
thanks for letting me go into that.
Hey, like I said, there's no structure here. Whatever you want to talk about, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a long story, obviously.
Yeah.
But and I think what we're trying to do with this here too is just try to get some exposure to different people.
Sure.
So, because that was one thing too, is like growing up in this area.
Yeah.
It's not that it's like secluded, but it's a rural area.
Sure.
And there's not a whole lot of different types of people.
Yeah.
That you come and interact with in a general sense. So it's like being able to put people's voices out there that, hey, they're running a business, they're doing this, they're doing that. Whatever it is, like I think there's something to be gained from just open, honest conversation with people.
Yeah.
And, that was when we started this was during 2020, the whole pandemic thing.
Okay.
It was like everybody was just, you're in your homes, you're sealed up, you're not talking to anybody. The only talking you're doing is on social media. We've already discussed that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, like all this technology is great, but it's led to not sitting down with somebody for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
And just having a conversation about who knows what.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want, like, ask me questions. I'll ask you whatever it is.
I love this.
Yeah,
no,
that's the whole point is like, all right, let's be a little more human.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
But
well, it's been good, man.
Yeah. I appreciate you. Have any more questions you'd like to ask me? Since you're here, you're good. Well,
it's my podcast now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm here for it. Whatever. I'm here for it, man. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, Tim.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're going to be farther away in the future, but maybe we can get you on Skype down the road.
Oh yeah. Well, plus I'll be back around.
Okay.
Yeah. With all the businesses and everything, I'll probably be back. at least quarterly. So if not more often.
Well, good luck to you. And
thank you.
Yeah.
You've made an impression on the community, that's for sure. And you make an impression personally. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
Praise the Lord. All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Remember, check out the website, chronic-curiosity.com, to join us at the forum, have some fun, interaction, pick you up a comfy t-shirt, or if you just want to support the show and donate, all that is on the website as well. Thank you. Until next time. See you.